Good morning, everybody. It's 10:44, 10:50. I hope you all had your coffees. Are you awake? Are you there? Okay, with a bit more noise. Can you make some noise? Yeah. Yes! Good. How about you?
Ready.
Good. Two panelists ready, one down. We have no clue where he is. Maybe double book, maybe a casualty of the party yesterday. But we're going to entertain you, the three of us, for sure. Good. So a few words about myself. Andy Waltenspiel. That's me, and that's what I do. I'm connecting the dots, connecting people. So I work with vendors and operators on go-to-market and innovation strategy and thought leadership. And there's some of the customers we do that with. So online video has long overtaken classical linear, as we all know, and it continues to grow. Video is important, but it's not the good old times anymore. We had people swimming in money. It was easy to make money in TV. It's getting tougher because we live in a cost of living crisis. Still, the pockets of the consumers are tighter. They have to make choices, and the landscape is so much more complex for them to navigate. It's not just one subscription serves all. You have multiple options, and since everyone charges, you have to make choices. There's fight on the platform, so streaming wars, platform wars. So it's fragmentation for the customers. But it's not only fragmentation for the customers, it's fragmentation on devices. It's fragmentation on offerings. It's fragmentation on backends. It's fragmentation on monetization. And for you as an operator, fragmentation in audiences. So we're going to talk about how do we navigate that best, what are some of the success factors, and we hear from SimpleStream and from Zatu what are their views. So big applause for our two panelists here, maybe three. And Ashley, maybe you come up first on stage. Big applause for Ashley Horn from SimpleStream, and I hand it over to you.
Thank you very much.
Where's the big applause?
Thank you.
There you go.
So for those that don't know, I'm from SimpleStream. So SimpleStream is a OTT solutions provider. We work in a range of different areas. So this is the video workflows. We work in live events, 24/7 live streaming, on-demand content, and then also the applications on the end as well. So a good range of the ecosystem within the OTT space. And we also do that for quite a lot of varied customers. So we have news outlets. We work with children's TV content, we work in teleshopping, and we work in sports, among others. So we've got a good idea of what the market looks like, but then also from different viewpoints and how different content types are targeting users in a different way. So today, what I wanted to talk about, and as part of the panel, is going to be the different ways that our customers and the market as a whole are looking at monetization. So as a little bit of a wind vein, as it were, we started looking at the larger companies, so the Netflixes, the Amazon Primes, and the Disney. And I think everyone here, everyone at the show is aware of how they're transitioning some of their models. So they're not just looking at a pure subscription anymore. They're either enforcing the subscription management that they already have, things like device limits, or they're even opening up to say, maybe we do a AVOD basic tier, or you have adverts included and you can pay premium to get rid of those adverts. There was a nice quote that I put up here, which is the original concept of OTT and IP and streaming was to reduce the cost of people wanting to watch video at home. And we're now at the point where there are so many subscription services, it's more expensive than what traditional cable used to be in the US. So we have to look at different monetization approaches. And what are we seeing for it? So we're seeing that our customers, but the market as a whole, is actually diversifying their monetization options. So they're not saying we're just subscription, we're just AVOD, we're just a fast channel. They're picking 1, 2, 3, 4 of these different ways of approaching things to be able to say, right, we will be flexible because that's what the consumer wants. And we have a greater breadth of consumers that we can then approach with that. And we're also seeing them diversifying their content. Where it used to be just buy a subscription and watch a film, they now have multiple ways of taking that piece of content and really eking out its lifespan. So there's a few examples here with classic BAFTA award-winning shark-based film. But we've got things where you can have it as transactional content. You can then move it into a subscription. Maybe that then expires after a while, maybe a year or so beyond it being broadcast, and then you add it into a AVOD tier or even a fast channel. It doesn't have to be in this order, but this is one of the content life cycles that we see, especially with our entertainment customers such as AMC. We're also seeing a lot more in terms of content engagement in the actual apps themselves. So these are things like integrations with e-commerce services, making sure that users feel like the content is being recommended for them, making sure that there's trailers to keep on driving them into the app. Increase the amount that they're in there, and they will pick your service to be the one that they retain when they start to look at which subscriptions are costing them too much or which apps are no longer used to be on their phones. We then, as SimpleStream, because we've been discussing this for a while, actually went out to the UK market and did a little bit of research ourselves. So there's some facts up here on the screen, which I won't go into too much detail, but one of my colleagues is at the back of the room here, is happy to pass on the full consumers in the modern age report that we did, which is quite interesting. Certainly some of the things that we've highlighted here is about the move away from taking just subscription models, whether or not people are willing to even buy another subscription model, and what that means for the market going forwards. And then finally, the last two pieces I want to cover before I hand over is the actual audience engagement. Once you've got people interested in the content, once they're happy to use whichever monetization model is relevant for them, how do you keep them coming back to and keep them wanting to watch adverts or pay for that single film? And in this case, we're seeing a lot of content rebrands or takeovers. Some really interesting stuff that we've been doing with the GAA is where the NFL has come into Irish hockey over there and actually taken over their apps, rebranded it to keep people engaged with it. Same we're also seeing for marketing, so driving people from, say, your telecoms provider to actually have a coupon, and that reduces the cost of what your subscription package might be. So creating that bundle across the ecosystem, and then related ads, which I think is more and more of a topic when it comes to recommendations of not just content, but adverts that you feel like you at least want to watch or are relevant to you. And then finally, what we're looking for the future. So I've had a lot of discussions this weekend around dynamic overlays, whether or not that's something that's e-commerce related, whether or not that's information about a sport that you're watching, or again, whether or not it's adverts. So they're not being as persistent. It's not you finish this show and then there's an advert at the end, but instead in the middle, you have a slider at the bottom, it advertises you something, and it's non-intrusive to you continuing to watch that piece of content. Multi-camera, so engagement within the actual video player themselves, whether or not that be something that's also multi-audio track, and then also watch together, which has been around for a while, but it's now starting to really take off as a way of engaging consumers, again, to keep them into that app and to keep them on board with whatever monetization model you might be using. That's all from me. If you want to come and talk to me afterwards, happy to engage. Otherwise, our stand is just down there. And with that, I will hand over for your Zatu presentation, which I have not given for you.
Thank you. Thanks for the overview of the pure OTT video services. So I'm crossing or building a bridge a little bit to a more traditional video distribution in terms of IPTV platforms. Launching TV experiences in the face of monetization model and connected TV fragmentation. That's the name of the panel, and I have to admit I found it very long and I had to think a little bit about it, what this could mean. And I asked myself, okay, what can I contribute to that topic? And there are two hypotheses that I would like to discuss in this panel. The first is IPTV services must be available via connected TVs. I think the third panelist just showed that. So, so IPTV services must be available via connected TV. So this is a device fragmentation that was being named already. So here I would like to show you some figures and where this hypothesis is coming from. The second hypothesis is IPTV services must enable and support advertising finance business models. Now, who am I? I'm Jörg. I'm Chief Commercial Officer with Zatu. The more interesting question is what makes me or what qualifies me to speak about these topics. And this is actually the experience that I made over the last 13 years with Zatu. What is Zatu doing? Zattoo is operating IPTV platforms, white label, end-to-end TV as a service, a lot of buzzwords. Happy to explain a little bit more afterwards also. So we are operating IPTV platforms in 9 countries as of today: Ireland, Monaco, Netherlands, Germany, and some more. For, as of today, 30 network operators, so where they run an IPTV service under their own brand, and from a technology point of view, it's coming from us. You also see our own logo here. This is because in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria, we also run our own direct-to-consumer business. Now, coming to my hypothesis. First hypothesis, just a reminder, IPTV services must be available via connected TVs. So for me, it's more than just a managed set-top box that is being required anymore. So where is this hypothesis coming from? And here I'm happy to share some data with you that's coming from our platform. So if we look on our Zattoo platform for our customers or operators and look at, okay, on which devices is the IPTV, the kind of traditional IPTV service actually being used on, then we see that 38% of the end customers are still watching TV on the operator set-top box. 28% are watching TV using mobile applications for smartphones or tablets. And the biggest part already, 64% of TV customers are actually watching TV on connected TVs or smart TVs, at least when looking at our customers and the operators where we are running the service for. And this really shows how important it already is to be available on these connected TVs. Second hypothesis. IPTV services must enable and support ad-financed business model. So it's not a pure TV subscription business anymore, as it used to be for most operators for many years. It's really also about advertising finance models. 2 examples I would like to give. The first is what we call dynamic ad substitution. What is that? This is that we do, when we do have a partnership with the broadcaster for that, we do replace the broadcasted TV commercial with targeted ads. So we take the broadcasted feed and we replace the ads to target it to the audience of our operators. Is this relevant? It would be the next question. And our data shows it really is. It starts to to establish itself in the markets that we're looking at. In the US, I think they are far ahead with that topic. In Europe, it's only starting. But if we look on our platform last year, almost 200 million of commercials that we did exchange in the name of the broadcaster and our operators. And this shows that it really is being about to establish itself, and it enables new business models between the broadcaster, the operator, and the advertisers. Second example I would like to give, free ad-supported streaming TV, fast channels. You for sure will have come across that buzzword here also at IBC over the last couple of days. And here, the number that I would like to share with you is how this is being used on the Zattoo platform again. So we, for our direct-to-consumer business, started around about a year ago to add to the general linear TV channel lineup, to add fast channels. In the meantime, we launched 16 fast channels, or added them to our channel lineup, a channel lineup of more than 200 traditional TV channels. And these 16 fast channels already today make up of around about 1% of overall viewing time. So who is familiar with the TV industry knows that if you would go to Germany and somebody guarantees you that next year you will have 1% of market share, which is this all about, with your new broadcasted channel, definitely you will get it financed, because that's a very relevant amount, so to say, of viewing time that falls under this 1%. And this shows to us that fast channels, they do bring value to the end user at the end of the day, so that they are being consumed. And they do enable IPTV service providers here to also participate from an industry that so far they were not able to benefit from, and that's the ad finance business, or the industry. Now, to sum it up, my hypothesis have been first, availability on connected TVs. So as an IPTV service, you have to be available on connected TVs. Second hypothesis is that as an IPTV service, you must be able to enable and support advertising finance business models. And I'd like to add a third hypothesis for the discussion. This is Many network operators lack the critical size to develop and operate their own IPTV platform, and this is mainly due to all the complexity that we outlined, at least in these two areas. With this, I'm either the discussion or we're handing over to Matthew.
Thank you. So, we made it a bit tension like in any good TV show. Will the hero arrive? Will he make it? He did make it eventually. Matthew Duig is here. And Matthew, come up on stage. Big applause.
Cheers. Thank you.
And give us your overview.
Cool. I'll be snappy because I was late, unfortunately, because my poor time came in. I was taking my time over breakfast, thinking I was in London still. So, cool. So, FX Digital, who are we? So, I'm Matthew Duig. I'm the co-founder of a business that builds bespoke TV applications. So, I think Jorgi set me up really nicely there with the conversation around how much growth there is in CTV at the moment and how important that platform is. I've been the managing director and technical director of this business for, 12 years now, so a real tenure. And we help all sorts of businesses with their connected TV deployments. So we're based over in London, in the UK, a team of around 55, mostly engineering. So we have a lot of technical expertise in the connected TV experience. But we also have a quality assurance team, a quality engineering team that build our automation frameworks, and then a small design team as well. So yeah, basically all specialized and geared up around connected TV. Application launches that we've done recently include things like Eurosport Player, GCN, Tennis TV, Discovery Plus. We work a lot with the BritBox team. We've deployed them across devices like Comcast, so do a lot of work in the set-top box space. And then even more recently, 3 weeks ago, launched Dyn Sport, if any of you are familiar with the German market, across devices including Sky, Magenta, Samsung, and Android TV. So yeah, lots of experience and knowledge in the TV side. Obviously, I'm coming at this from a more technical perspective, reeling off some clients there. Cool, so what do we need to think about when we're building a connected TV application? So I think the first question is your audience actually asking for it? I think there can be a tendency to jump straight into this stuff without doing the kind of business thinking beforehand. So let's make sure your audience actually wants a connected TV application. What countries are you operating in? So every country around the world has a different penetration for a different device of connected TV. So if you're targeting the States, you're not going to go there without thinking about Roku as a platform. If you're looking into the UK, you might focus on things like Amazon Fire or Samsung. So really the locations that you're launching your application in have a massive impact on which devices you should be targeting from a CTV perspective. And also the roadmap. So, if you want to then expand into other territories, you really need to be thinking about those devices from the very beginning, because the technical decisions you make on day one will have a massive impact on which devices you can eventually get onto in the future. I think we touched on resources as well. So do you have the team capable of building this yourself? It's quite a challenge to build a connected TV application and get it launched across so many devices. So you need to really think about which devices you can target with the team that you have. And then, of course, strict launch deadlines. A lot of people don't understand or know, but TV is not like web. You can't just decide one day you want to launch a TV application in the same way you can on the web, and within 30 seconds you've got it on AWS and you've shared a URL around and it's up. No, TV has a lovely thing called the certification process. So if you want to launch onto any device, be it Samsung, Android, Sky, Comcast, you have to go through a whole certification process, which is going to take weeks and in some instances months if you've not quite got the relationship with the provider that you need to be able to get the application through. So building for TV isn't something that can be done in a hurry, even if you're really, really good at it and can build it quickly because of this certification process. Some of the TV devices that we've worked with, so yeah, you'll see familiar faces on there like Sky, Fire TV, Roku, and some more unknown devices like Fetch in Australia. So these are all the kinds of devices we've worked with, and of course many more, and continue to be many more. So I think we as a company probably buy about 3 or 4 TV devices per week. So our office is constantly building up with these TV devices. That had some text on it, so I'm going to riff this off without seeing the text. This is essentially a diagram that details all the different platforms we spoke about, and tries to go into detail around what operating systems are on these and also how you launch for them. So if we take these as a bit of an example, so Sky, Fire TV, Sony, Tizen, LG, Freeview, UView, Fetch, you can launch onto those devices a web-hosted URL. So you can launch that and you can build that using familiar frameworks like React, but in some instances they don't perform particularly well on these devices. So as a company, we don't use HTML DOM-based frameworks, we use WebGL and a framework in particular called Lightning. So you can launch on those devices using a web URL. But when it comes to Roku, you can't launch on that using a web URL. You have to use a language called BrightScript, which is a completely different application. So straight away, you've got two separate engineering teams, really, one building a web-based application, one building a BrightScript application. And then other devices like Android TV is going to be Java or Kotlin. So again, you probably won't use a web URL on there, even though you can load it as a web view, but there's some caveats to that. And then Apple TV is going to be Swift. So you're starting to look at this and understand the fragmentation of it. You can't just build once and deploy it anywhere. It doesn't really work like that. As much as we all love to kind of say build once, deploy anywhere, it's not quite that simple. So another thing to really consider. No text. They're an example of some of the frameworks that we've used to build for the web-based TV devices. Of course, I mentioned BrightScript and Android are different and Apple's different, but we've used these frameworks, and I can tell you with confidence that Lightning is the most performant. You might be able to find engineers for React easier, but you'll have a lot more pain in the long run trying to optimize it for a TV device because they're such low-power devices. So we use Lightning, which is still JavaScript, so you know any JavaScript engineer worth their weight will be able to deploy onto Lightning as well. And there's just a few more things to think about. So yeah, think about the fragmentation. I mentioned the need for different code bases because of the different technologies that are involved. These devices have limited memory, so it's going to be a real effort to optimize the code that you're writing to make sure it runs performantly on them. They all use old browser versions, so TV manufacturers don't update the browsers that run the web apps in their TV. There'll be a fork of Chromium that they've just left on their device. So if you're working with a 2016 Samsung, the browser, and that's probably from 2014. So think about that. Video playback isn't easy on TV, so don't go in there assuming that video playback is going to be super simple because it's a TV device. It doesn't work like that. You're going to need some experts to help there. Sourcing accurate documentation is very challenging, especially when you come to some of the more niche operators. We've had instances before where we've worked with an operator and gone, oh, can you share us your documentation? They've gone, oh yeah, sure, that's Steve, go chat to Steve. And that's the kind of level we're working at in this world. Some platforms require you to have developer devices, so if you want to launch on Sky or Comcast, you can't just decide to do that. You need to get access to developer devices. Same with PlayStation. We, of course, have those. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The last point, yeah, it's frustrating to build for CTV, so recruitment is challenging. And it's one of these things that developers either love it or they hate it. They either love the challenge of building for TV or they hate it and just want to go and build web apps. So yeah, bear all that in mind. Cheers, I rattled through that quickly because I know we're short on time.
Perfect. So you might be tempted to say, fantastic. Now, have a seat already here. Please, guys, come up. You might be tempted to say, good, I know everything, I can leave and have a coffee. No. We still have 20 minutes discussion. We're going to talk about the stuff they have not talked about. Right? So that's all nice, but the devil is in the detail. And where I would like to, well, where we're going to is like, how do we best launch a TV service and how to best monetize it? But before we got there, we got some ideas. Let's define the best case. What makes a TV service truly unique, enjoyable, amazing NPS? What do customers love? And maybe since you're operating one, Jörg, I want you to go first. What are some of the key ingredients for outstanding TV service?
My answer will be 3 points. First point is it's the content, but especially to make it as easy as possible to find the content that the users are expecting on your platform. So the proposition that you give, what is the content that you will deliver to the user, they have to find it easily. Second is, and this what has been touched already, what we call a multi-screen experience. So these days, the viewer doesn't care whether he started a show in the living room on the TV set and then wants to end it on the TV set in the bedroom maybe, or on a tablet, or wherever. It has to be super smoothly, so that's the second point. And the third point is very boring, but it's all about quality and stability. So it's really, it just has to work. Users these days are not accepting anymore any buffering or when it takes too long to switch from one content to the other. So I would say these are the 3 key ingredients.
Okay, thank you, Jörg. Matthew, what's your view on top of that?
Similar, so I'd probably drive a bit more into that third one you mentioned there, which is quality. I think it's so easy to overlook the need for things to be robust and scalable and stable. And I think because of the sheer number of devices that we're working with, getting to that point is a challenge. Like if you're launching across 20 different set-top boxes and smart TVs and streaming sticks, and within those platforms, they've all got devices. So I think the other day I did a bit of an analysis of Sky and Comcast, and there was 49 devices that I come up with that are out there in the market currently. Like if you're launching across 49 devices, like there's going to be issues, right? So it's about stability and basically building a robust service and not assuming that is simple to do.
Yeah, so I agree with all the points. I think the one area that's maybe not been touched on is some of that actual user engagement. I think now customers don't just expect to find the great content, they expect to be told about it. The majority of us now have an email once a week from Netflix to tell you what's latest on their service, because there's so much in there that you need to be told about it, or you need to be advertised, and then that marketing information needs to be driven back into your service. And I think that's one thing that we're seeing more and more of, is it's not just build it and they will come. You have to go out and get them, and you have to go and tell them that you've got a Roku app and you've got a Fire TV app and that they can watch it anywhere, and that there is user engagement opportunities on your mobile device that are either in parallel to you watching it, or it's a second screen opportunity where you're looking at sports and it's telling you exactly what's happening on that screen and whether or not you can go and buy a new ticket for that event, or if you're watching teleshopping and you're able to purchase that on your device as well. So yeah, all those points, but I think making sure those users come to you is really important now.
Getting there is less easy than saying this is the ideal state, right? Is that mainly a technical challenge? Is it a content licensing challenge? Is it a mindset challenge? Where are the key points?
I would say it's all of it, yeah? Because what used to be, okay, there's one service and they might have a content partner, a device, and the end user. That's not there anymore. So if you do run a video service, and there it doesn't matter from my point of view whether it's a pure OTT video service or an IPTV service, you are working in an ecosystem. You have device manufacturers, and it's not, oh, I want to publish on a Samsung, I do publish a subscription-based model on a Samsung. Most probably Samsung will contact you and will ask for whatever kind of commercial agreement beforehand. So you have these hardware manufacturers where you need commercial agreements with. You have, of course, your content partners that come with a lot of requirements. They want you to support business models that are important to them. They want you to make sure that their whatever kind of restrictions in terms of catch-up TV or DRM or whatever it is are being fulfilled, so they come with a lot of requirements. Then you have the end user, of course, that expect every experience to be like Netflix, at least from a benchmark level. So it's a lot of things, and this is what really makes it more and more complex to run a service, because it's really it's a big ecosystem with a lot of partners that you have to manage. From a technical point of view, but in addition also from a business and licensing point of view.
Yeah. So I think on top of that as well, it's a point that Matt raised earlier, which is you've got to understand what your audience want, and do they actually want it? Yeah. So if you're going to come into the market and say, I want to either build out my existing service or build a new one, which is rare but happens, then you have to understand how they want to consume that content. We have one customer where in the UK it's a AVOD-based children's service, so they can watch Noddy and Fireman Sam. But when they have it in Australia, they don't have their own app over there. Instead, they syndicate that, and we help them syndicate a fast channel to Comcast, because that's the general way of consuming that. And then they have different monetization models to make sure that works for them. Mm-hmm. But you've got to go and say, what do they want? What platforms work for them? Your point earlier was great about, in the US, Roku is massive. But over in the UK, it's not really touched. Vice versa for Amazon Fire TV. So I think that's the really big point. If you're going to go out there and try to build something perfect, understand who actually wants it and who's going to pay for it and bankroll your service.
Yeah, that's a great point. We launched an application recently, and obviously there's no search engine optimization for TV, right? So users aren't just going to stumble across your application. They need to be told about it. And we're in a position now whereby some of our customers have really good open communication channels with their customers through channels like Twitter or through their Google stores. So basically, in a lot of instances, their customers are dictating their roadmaps for their device launches. They're going, oh, why aren't you on LG? Why aren't you on Amazon? Why aren't you on Android? So it's great for us because we get a long list of devices that we need to target for the next few years, and that's in a lot of instances how it works. You need to ask your customers where exactly they want to consume the content.
Maybe I may use the opportunity that you're sitting next to me to test an hypothesis that I had, but already 5 years ago actually, and I do not really see something happening there. So for a pure OTT service like our direct-to-consumer business, I mean, it's always about how to get new customers. Yeah? Customers' acquisition costs are high, margins are low. Yeah. So let's say 15 years ago, search engine optimization, SEO, was a big thing in the web, and still is, yeah, but it wasn't. Now, looking on connected TVs, my hypothesis is, okay, to be seen, you have to be visible in search, for example, but every platform is using different search, whatever kind of frameworks and technologies and so on. I was expecting since a couple of years already kind of a professional career in terms of SEO for connected TVs.
No, it's easy. It's very easy. You just write the biggest check and you're in number one.
Yeah. That's exactly what we want to avoid. Yeah? So do you, from your observations with all these ecosystems, do you see people professionalizing on that?
So you're specifically talking about trying to drive people towards TV applications. No, I think everyone still has a very much web and mobile first mindset, and TV is a bit of an afterthought, which is challenging for us, especially when you show the figures up there that prove that TV is 64% of video consumption now. It is though really hard because there are not many tools on connected TV to encourage discoverability outside of providing an operator with your metadata feed of your content and then having that surface on their operating system or through their voice search. That's pretty much the only way you can do it, and then having them deep link into your content. There are companies out there that try and make that process a little bit smoother, but to my point earlier, the documentation around this stuff is so poor that it really is impossible to try and be ahead of the curve on it and to create a product that does it all for you. That's why our service is very bespoke to our customers' needs, because it's difficult to productize this stuff.
Yeah. One thing I will say that I've seen is that there's more engagement now between the content owners and the direct TV manufacturers. So we work quite a lot with customers that use Freeview in the UK, and one of the benefits to them is that they haven't had a discussion with the Sonys and the Samsungs and the Hisenses, so that when you buy the TV, their app and the apps that are included with it are pre-installed on that. And I think that's something that could be replicated further than just that platform, to say, if you've got an agreement with Hisense, do you know what, your TV loads, and that landscape that you look at, as soon as you click the OK, well, I've selected my language, it's already pre-downloaded on there. And I think that's really strong in terms of, I don't have to search at all, I've just got that app ready for me.
The elephant here in the room is, are you aggregator or are you being aggregated, right? Because we can all do an app and we can launch it and save the capex, and that has been the dilemma. Why do set-top boxes still exist? Everybody says they're dead since 20 years. They're probably here to say another 10. Because that's what tier one operators tell. I cannot control the TV experience because my incentives are not aligned with a Samsung, with an LG, and all the others guys. So that's a problem, and that drives user experience. If I have no cross-search, I mean, for me it happens often. I go on Netflix, I search, I don't find. I go on Disney, another 10 minutes spent, and then I go read a book. Because there's no cross-search. And if you're a set-top box, if you have a set-top box, a device that you control as the operator, you could do it if you have the right content agreements allowing you to do that. If you're on a Samsung TV, good luck, because Samsung realizes, and all the others, just an example, that they can make money by being the aggregator. So where are we going there? Maybe with tier 2s and tier 3s who do not have the pockets to build a unique bundled environment. Maybe that's where you come in with too.
I mean, that's our business hypothesis on that point. Yeah. So we see that the complexity that we have touched, and we only touched fragments of the overall, let's say, complexity that we see. So the complexity that we just discussed leads to the critical size keeps on increasing that you would need to, from a financial point of view, really be able to build your own platform, be it in-house or with partners or whatever. So it really becomes more difficult to really make a business case out of it. And this is our business hypothesis, that we say that, okay, we aggregate across many operators, the audience and the reach, And by this, we are scaling, and from this scalability, all our customers, so the operators, then benefit so that they have an IPTV service which is on benchmark with the tier 1 telco IPTV services, but without having to build it on their own. Of course, then with also some downsides of not being able to define every single feature maybe that comes to your mind. But nonetheless, from a general point of view, especially for tier 2 and tier 3 operators, where I would doubt that many of them really have the critical size, that's a big opportunity actually to go also maybe from a more traditional DVB-C-based platform to a pure, from my point of view, unicast IPTV solution that really is on par with what their key competitors are looking at, so to say. But in addition to that, it also, of course, always depends on the strategic direction that the operator wants to go. Yeah. So the first question always is, okay, what is my goal with the IPTV service? Is it a differentiating factor? Am I willing to buy content on my own? So sports content or whatever. I mean, this was the thing 5 years ago for all tier 1s. I think it's going down. But if that would still be the case, then of course the second question that then would have to be answered, okay, what do I see TV as a core competency, and do I want to build up the resource and the know-how internally? Would be answered differently following the first question. And the third question then is, okay, what is the guidance for the business case? Is it do you want to make money with TV, with the TV product, or shall it help you to sell internet access products? Yeah. So, and only these three questions have to be answered thoroughly by every operator, and many of them, I would assume, would then come to the conclusion, okay, that in 2023, the answers are different to what they would have been in 2015 maybe. Absolutely. And here we are.
So let's switch gears. We don't have much time left, and I want to talk about how to make money. That's a good point. Do you want to make money? Are you ready to lose money? Is TV there? Is that your insurance for churn reduction? That's the answer for many. It's getting tough to make money with TV, but it reduces churn in my bundle. But yeah, is there a single best way or a best mix to monetize? What's your view? What do you hear from your customers?
You were here 3 minutes ago for my presentation where I said
yes.
that absolutely was not.
You have to say the things multiple times.
So I think I very much stand by what I showed a little bit earlier, which is we're seeing everyone diversify. And what's really interesting is no one is doing it the same way. A lot of them have taken fast, which has been, as you mentioned, a real buzzword for the past year, and tried to leverage that as best they can. It's worked for some of them, and for others it hasn't. And so that depends on the market, the audience, and the geolocation that they're actually working within. I think we're definitely seeing that most customers, if not all of them, should get to the point where they're doing some form of advertising alongside a subscription model. Very few of them are succeeding with purely doing one or the other, which then means you have to go into this discussion of who are going to be your advertising partners and which way do you want that to do to people. If you've previously been a subscription service, you don't want to be intrusive about it, but you want to offer it in a way that you can come in and take on that content without having to pay for a new service. So I think it's very much a mix of that. And you know, we as more vendors, I'm seeing is we have to understand the advertising deeper than we've had to before. Previously, you know, when I started in the industry 10 years ago, it was client-side advertising, stick pre-rolls on it, and then someone will hard part you a couple of assets, and you put an ad in the middle. Now we have services such as yours where it's dynamic ad insertion, dynamic ad replacement, server-side ad insertion. These are all technologies that have evolved and matured in the past few years that we have to understand, and then we have to pass that knowledge on to our customers to make sure that they understand what they're doing with it and how best to approach their audience with it.
I think it doesn't matter how you cut up monetization. If your content's crap, you're not going to make any money from it, I think, at the end of the day.
Because we all could launch a fast channel in 6 weeks.
Well, this is kind of what I'm about to say, right? In the industry, we have this tendency of following people down the rabbit hole all the time. Like, fast sounds great, but who's making money out of it, right? I don't know. Is it Pluto, because they've got so many eyeballs? Like, if you're a small content provider, you're going to need hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people watching your content before you make money out of a fast channel. Like, and you know, is that the right model for you? I don't know if your content's good enough for that. We come back to subscription all the time, of course, but obviously there's better ways of cutting it up potentially, but yeah, again, if your content's no good, don't worry about it. There's probably easier ways of testing the water with your content before going all in on a D2C OTT platform, to be honest. Like, you know, can you partner with somebody else and get it out on their service to see if there's actually a need for it? You know, is your web or mobile experience that's arguably easier to launch getting the traction that justifies you then going off the full hog and building out a greater service? And YouTube, right? Like, lots of people are still putting stuff on YouTube and making a lot of money on it there. So if you're not growing a big following on platforms like YouTube, then you know maybe your content isn't good enough.
Yep. We got 3 minutes left. I want to hear from each of you. 1 minute. Key takeaways. What should the audience take away on how to best launch a TV experience in a fragmented, complex landscape? Jörg.
Do not underestimate the complexity that comes with it, but also do not underestimate the opportunities that come with it, with going all to these new devices, participating from new business models, like especially in the ad finance model, and look out for partners that can help you to make most out of it.
Ashley, your minute.
Flexibility is absolutely key. That is flexibility in your monetization models, the way that you send content and distribute content to your customers, but also the flexibility of your vendors to get together, work together, and create the best streamlined workflow, which means that you can reach out to your audience as far as possible with multiple monetization models, with your content coming in different ways.
And Matt?
Keep it simple. Like when you're doing this stuff, your conversation shouldn't be about features. They should be about reach and content. Like, keep it simple. Stop overcomplicating it.
The world is complex. There are solutions. Here are 3 fantastic companies that help you navigate the way. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Big applause to our 3 panelists.